Well, Senator, let me follow up by asking, do you think that the CIA and military intelligence agencies and the FBI have used the emergency provisions, both in law and by emergency agency, the Federal Preparedness Agency it's called now, to have contingency plans which threaten the liberty of American citizens?
Mr. Rowan, in due course, the committee will pass judgment on those questions. I'm not going to pre-guess the committee or prematurely attempt to pass judgment on this program. But let me tell you this. In the need to develop a capacity to know what potential enemies are doing, the United States government has perfected a technological capability that enables us to monitor the messages that go through the air. These messages are between ships at sea. They could be between units, military units in the field. We have a very extensive capability of intercepting messages wherever they may be in the airwaves. Now, that is necessary and important to the United States as we look abroad at enemies or potential enemies. We must know. At the same time, that capability at any time could be turned around on the American people. And no American would have any privacy left. Such is the capability to monitor everything. Telephone conversations, telegrams, it doesn't matter. There would be no place to hide. If this government ever became a tyranny, if a dictator ever took charge in this country, the technological capacity that the intelligence community has given the government could enable it to impose total tyranny. And there would be no way to fight back, because the most careful effort to combine together in resistance to the government, no matter how privately it was done, is within the reach of the government to know. Such is the capability of this technology. Now, why is this investigation important? I'll tell you why. Because I don't want to see this country ever go across the bridge. I know the capacity that is there to make tyranny total in America. And we must see to it that this agency and all agencies that possess this technology operate within the law and under proper supervision, so that we never cross over that abyss. That's the abyss from which there is no return.
This is Derrick Broze. This is Derrick Broze of the Conscious Resistance. I'm here in Standing Rock.
That man is wanted in 5 different countries: Chile, Argentina, Brazil.
We've been fighting a long time. We've all lost so very much. So many loved ones gone.
Don't you fucking tease that horse!
You are not alone. There are pockets of resistance all around the planet. We are at the brink. Above all, stay alive. You have no idea how important you are. If you're listening to this, you are the resistance.
Hey everyone, this is Derrick Broze with the Conscious Resistance Live, and tonight is episode 135. It is called The Trump Assassination Attempt and the Great Inversion. We got some really big topics to talk about. Obviously, I mean, this weekend was crazy. We're going to talk about these topics. I'm going to hopefully give you a perspective that you're not hearing everywhere else, because I know that this being, one of the biggest events happening in the world, and obviously in the North American side of the world, everybody's talking about it. Everybody's dissecting it. I put out a new article today for The Last American Vagabond. I spent this weekend way too much time on Twitter, spent this weekend going through all the various bits of evidence that I was finding, things that you guys are sending me. And there's a lot of questions that remain. And there's more questions even coming out after I wrote this article. I'm getting more information from people. So we're going to go over all that tonight. And then our second topic, which we'll do after a short break in a little bit, we're going to talk about the Great Inversion. And the Great Inversion, aka the False Awakening, is something that you may have heard me talk about. I've been mentioning, I went back to my Telegram and searched. I think the first time I mentioned the Great Inversion was in 2022, 2023. And I've been talking about it. I've been reading about it from another content creator who is one of the only people I've heard use that phrase, as well as reading Rudolf Steiner. And I think what Steiner, those of you who know his work, warned about is going to be relevant as well. So the second half of the show will be all about the Great Inversion. And then there's one other topic that I do want to cover. If I don't remember, please remind me, guys. Somebody comment Bohemian Grove later on. If I once I get through the Trump stuff and the Great Inversion, if I try to skip on and get to what's Derrick reading and talk about books, somebody remind me, because there's really some stuff I want to share about that as well. And then, of course, we're going to play a conscious music video if it loads. It's loading right now. We'll see if it's done by the end of the show. And in fact, that music video is from me. I just dropped a brand new music video. It's actually not even out yet. My goal was to premiere it here on the show tonight. And hopefully we'll get to do that. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. And first of all, I want to remind you guys all, my website is theconsciousresistance.com. This is where you can find all of the content I've been producing for the decade plus now, including the show notes for tonight's show. You can go to theconsciousresistance.com and find them. You can find my latest article, What is the Great Inversion, which we're going to cover later on. You can find new articles from Anthony Samaroff, who's always focused on health and solutions and empowerment, which I appreciate. And then you can also find recent interviews I've done and clips from previous shows. I encourage you guys to check out this interview I did last week with my friend John Hale from Houston, Texas. Well, he's based in Texas, in Houston and Austin. And he's a venue owner. He's a musician. He now owns this company called SoulStream, which is a blockchain-based streaming platform trying to help artists out and offer an alternative to the Spotify, Apple, etc. streaming monopoly. And he also owns a ticket company that's trying to give promoters and bands and artists more. And in fact, on SoulStream, it's not just for music. Like, I'm going to be putting my podcasts on there as well. If you've got content and you want to actually maybe make some money in the form of their Soul token, you can also get paid out in dollars or whatever. And support the non-monopoly. You like to stream music, listen to music, put your podcasts out there. Check out that interview, guys. Seriously, it's super, I think, interesting project, and it's worth your time. So check that one out. But yeah, check out theconsciousresistance.com. You can go to theconsciousresistance.com/invest if you ever want to invest in my work. Sometimes I'll occasionally say donate, but what I really mean is invest, guys, because as you know, it doesn't pay a lot to be an independent journalist. I'm lucky that I get paid to write articles for The Last American Vagabond because Ryan Christian and his support through his audience funds him and funds my work. So I have a salary and I write articles on a weekly, bi-weekly basis, including the Trump one we're about to go over. But other than that, all of the documentaries I do, the books I write, the interviews, the confrontations of politicians, I don't get paid to do that. That's just me doing it because I give a shit. If you want to support me, go to theconsciousresistance.com/invest. You can check out my Substack page, my Buy Me a Coffee page. You can send me stuff to my P.O. box, and you can invest via crypto as well if you want to do that. So yeah, let's go on to the lead story. Of course, it is this right here for those who are watching on the screen, that picture of Trump covered, well, not covered, but with some blood streaking across his face. Now, I'm going to try to keep my thoughts organized because I want to be able to share this clip of this video after tonight so you guys can share this out for those who won't read the article. I broke my article down into sections. Sections first summarizing what we all pretty much know at this point, which is that on Saturday, July 13th, around 6:10 p.m., there was shots ringing out and Trump was allegedly hit in the ear. I think there's still reasons to be skeptical about that. We'll get into that. And somebody died and 2 other people were injured. So we're going to go over some of those basic facts. We're going to talk about who the shooter was, Thomas Matthew Crooks, and really, the conversation around the shooter. We're going to talk about the fact that a local police officer tried to intervene. We're going to talk about that 2 witnesses warned about the shooter, and that new evidence has just come out tonight that the local police were warned. We're going to get into the details. The police were warned up to 26 minutes, 30 minutes ahead of time that this dude was up on the roof. So that lends more credibility to the idea that somebody allowed this to happen. And then there's unconfirmed reports of a second shooter that I found. And then we're going to get into who benefits and what comes next, order out of chaos. And that'll lead us perfectly into the Great Inversion conversation. So I'm going to try to do my best. I cover a lot in this article, so we're just going to take it piece by piece so I don't skip around too much. But let me just do that before I start getting off track and going into theories and this and that. Okay, so as I said, July 13th, 6:10 p.m., Trump gets shot at in Butler, Pennsylvania, and Trump grabs his ear, falls to the ground. People start screaming. The agents jump on him, kind of, and then Trump starts asking for his shoes. They try to take him away. He's like, hold on, let me get my shoes, several times. And then as they finally start bringing him, he stops in this moment that you really couldn't even you couldn't even write this moment better. Honestly, this is one of the things that makes me skeptical. Look, I get that there are amazing photographers out there, and I'm a videographer. I go out into scenes, like I know the power of keeping your camera rolling and just being ready for anything, especially if you're a shooter, like shooter in terms of cameras, not guns. You got your camera ready and you're clicking constantly, like you're just taking photos, and you probably take 1,000 at one event, and then you go through them and you see if any of them are any good or which ones are good. So it's not that hard to imagine, as you can see in the video, that there were photographers really close. And I shout out to these photographers. I know some people might use that as a way to say, oh, this looks staged. Why were those photographers just standing up so close when they could be shot? Yeah, it's a real life thing. You go into a war zone, for example, as a journalist, as a photographer, you realize that you're putting your life on the line. So if you're a photographer and you realize that there isn't a presidential assassination going on, or gunshots or something, you might not even be sure what, but you decide, like, I'm getting these shots. This is the guy who took those pictures is going to win some awards. Like, straight up, this guy is going to win Pulitzer Prizes for his journalism, his photojournalism. So it's not that hard to imagine somebody actually legitly getting that photo. I just want to make that point clear. I don't think we should necessarily look at that, as I've seen some people, and just say, like, oh, that's clearly staged. How'd the photographer get there, etc. There's plenty of reasons for that. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't weird things going on, as we're going to cover. In fact, I've seen some people talking about this dude right here. You can see to the left of the Secret Service agent with the bowler hat and his mouth open. He's like got his hand next to his mouth in the jacket. I saw from another source that guy is a common figure at Trump events. Some people think it's something going on there. Again, we'll save the theories for later. So they jump on him, they drag him out, and then, of course, he stands up, his hand is in the air, and he mouths fight several times. Everybody starts chanting USA, and then they get them out of there, and they get to the car. And there's a lot of things been paying attention to the fact that, the way the Secret Service agents handled it, particularly the woman who did look scared and confused. I see some sexist assholes out there saying, like, oh, look, they tried to diversify the Secret Service, and here's what happens. Look, I mean, I get that obviously there are differences between men and women and how we handle situations, but there's some tough ass women out there. Okay. So to just throw out that stupid idea, I do think it's sexist to just act as if, like, oh, because this woman is a woman, she fucked it up and somehow it's her fault or whatever. But I've seen some of those hot takes out there. Now, here's an important point. Early reports from the Pennsylvania State Police. I've only seen this reported in a couple places, and I couldn't even find a statement from the Pennsylvania police. I saw it reported on the news. I was watching it live after the whole thing happened. I started turning on several different channels, Fox and others, and just listening, because, guys, this is when you do have a false flag event or a staged event, it is in those moments, like, for example, the Boston bombing, 9/11, so many others, that when there's all these news reports coming out, not only do you very quickly start to see a narrative forming, and it's like, it's this one guy, Osama bin Laden, or something like that, but also bits and pieces of the truth come out. That's why, for example, we look back on 9/11 and we're like, hey, look at this BBC journalist reporting that WTC-7 went down when the building's literally right behind her. Sometimes the truth comes out really early, and then it gets covered up, and the story gets, the narrative gets formed. So I was just watching as many of these channels as I could, live in real time, particularly the local news, guys. Here's a tip: pay attention to the local news. They're often more legit journalists than CNN, the national Fox and NBC and all the others. So I saw a Fox station report that a Pennsylvania State Police statement said that Trump was actually hit by a piece of glass from the teleprompter screens on either side of him. However, though, Trump says that he was hit by a bullet, which, I mean, even if he wasn't, I think he would claim he was. But there are videos that show, based on what I've seen, that both the teleprompters are intact. So that theory seems to be out, but that was one of them that was out there floating around. Now, of course, a man did die, Corey Comparator, and I've seen pictures of him floating around. It's sad that somebody died in this whole thing. Now, look, let me just also address this before we go any further. I know that there's already those of you out there saying, Derrick, I can't believe you buy this. Nobody died. Trump did get hit by a bullet, et cetera, et cetera. And look, I'm willing to entertain those conversations. I'm not just going to shut you down automatically. That's not the purpose of this video today, just FYI, in case anyone thinks that's where I'm going. But because I am a critical thinker, I could imagine a scenario where that could be true. Maybe we can talk about that later if you guys remind me. I don't want to distract from the things that we know and get too far off into speculation land. But I know some of you might already believe the whole thing is staged and faked. I think there's some scripted narrative thing going on here. I can't quite tell what's what, but that's the point of this article in this report. So the shooter was, of course, initially there was different names going around. And I don't think, again, that that's that unusual, because people, especially in the age of the internet, we got freaking internet sleuths like myself and you guys out there. And as soon as we can, we hear a name and we start looking up people's profiles and pulling up, look, he said this thing in 2013 and he did this. And a lot of times it's the wrong person and people have to come out and say, hey, I'm alive. I'm not the shooter. Please leave me alone. And they start getting death threats and, it can really ruin people's lives. I get like the immediate rush to try to figure things out. And even with this, like I typically don't comment on situations like this. We're only 2 days out of the shooting. I would typically wait a few weeks to talk about it, but I think it's so important right now because again, some of the details are going to maybe be buried later on. But at the same time, we need to find a balance between asking questions and just speculating wildly. In fact, some people think that that's what I'm doing. I got a lot of that yesterday on Twitter. I spent, again, way too much time arguing with people on Twitter about this. But I do think it's healthy to ask questions, but we shouldn't just get so far to things that we can't prove at all. Anyway, so they named, I heard Mark Violet. There's another guy's name. You guys probably seen it, the guy with the plugs, big earplugs, and that gives it away for me. That wasn't him. That was because if you haven't seen it, guys, there is a picture out there of the shooter dead on the ground with like his head blown up. And, he's clearly dead. This is clearly a dead person. Again, it could be fake, blah, blah, whatever. But it looks real to me, seems like, and it looks like who we know as Thomas Matthew Crooks. I went and looked up and found his high school graduation video. Looks like the same dude. Found some other videos. Interestingly, he is a registered Republican in Pennsylvania. Not that it really matters. I know everybody's ready to like, oh, look, he's an Antifa, anti-Trumper, or, the other side's ready to be like, look, it's a pro-Trumper. Let's use this for our agenda. Facts are facts. This guy's a Republican voter, but he also donated $15 to a progressive PAC on the day Biden was elected. So who knows, right? Maybe he was registered as Republican just because, back in the day when he was 18, he thought he was Republican. And in the years since, he's woken up because of Trump's actions and because of the radicalization of the media. Now, interestingly, as I'm sure many of you know, Crooks was in a 30-second ad by BlackRock, which is, of course, this massive firm that controls so much of our world, and we don't even really know who owns them. In 2022, so this ad features a teacher from his high school, Bethel Park High School, and he can be seen in the video speaking to the teacher. And interestingly, people, again, internet sleuths, we found the video, and then once it became public, BlackRock put out a statement and they acknowledged it and they said, quote, in 2022, we ran an ad featuring a teacher from Bethel Park High School in which several unpaid students briefly appeared in the background, including Thomas Matthew Crooks. And they took down the video, but I linked to it in this article. You can find it pretty much everywhere now. Now on that spot, let's just pause there for a moment. Again, weird shit. I don't know what the hell that means, guys. Like, yes, the connection to BlackRock doesn't feel good. And I get maybe the instinct to just want to jump to like, that means something, his parents must have worked for BlackRock and then they staged this thing. And then his dad apparently had 20 guns. So maybe he was secretly MK Ultra and trained to know how to miss perfectly. And then BlackRock funded the whole thing. And I don't know, guys, maybe, but we're never going to know. That's the crazy things about these sort of things. And this is why it's important to be a critical thinker. You look back at every major event like this, there's always these weird little threads. And in fact, if you guys know Jim Marrs, he's a researcher. He's since dead, amazing researcher. His book, Rule by Secrecy, woke me up back in the day. Jim Marrs would tell me when I would ask him certain things, when I got to interview him about 3 or 4 times, and I could pick his brain every time. And he told me that in his file cabinet, because he's an old school dude, he's got a real file cabinet, and he said he had a folder. So he said there would be topics and issues and things that would make him go, huh. Like, I can't necessarily prove anything, and I don't know what the heck that means, but it sure makes me go, huh, I'm just going to file that away. So I think this BlackRock thing for the moment, until we have more solid evidence, is just, it's going in the file. We don't know what that means. Yes, I know it's weird. Again, it doesn't feel good. It feels like something sketchy, but at the moment, we can't prove anything. You guys can speculate if you want. I'm sticking with what I can prove at the moment. And I do have some speculation towards the end, but not so much on the BlackRock thing at the moment. Another fact, Olivia Rubin, who is with ABC News, said that this guy had been rejected from the high school rifle club and that he was, one of the team members allegedly said that he was asked not to come back because of how bad of a shot he was. Now, I've seen people speculating that, or saying that, well, if you look at the high school records, there's no indication he was actually on the team. And so, again, maybe that's disinfo. I don't know why that they would want to say he's a bad shooter. Like, that doesn't really, I don't know whose case that helps. Business Insider also spoke with a former Secret Service agent. Now, I think this is interesting. This is in mainstream news. This guy's Bill Pickle. He was the former special agent in charge of Al Gore's vice presidential Secret Service detail. And he said that whoever took that Crooks, based on what he saw, he was, quote, a guy who actually shot before. Quote, this kid at 150 yards made a great shot. I don't know the specifics of whether he used optics, meaning a scope on his rifle, but even with optics, it takes someone with training to aim at somebody's head from 150 yards away, and you actually hit the edge of the head. So, of course, questions are swirling about how the heck this guy was even able to get on the roof and be up there for so long. As I said, that there's new reports, let me go ahead and pull those up real quick, showing that he was up there for like 30 minutes. And shout out to Don Villa, a good friend, and with the Conscious Resistance Network, Don's been sending me little nuggets he's been finding. Don is a great researcher. So here we got a TMC video, Trump rally shooter seen opening fire and getting killed seconds later. And if you can see that little still image right there, that shows him literally just like laying on the thing and in clear day. And obviously people are able to get video pictures of him, and that's a still from a video. So they got video. It's weird. Like, how does the dude get up there that long and nobody notices? And here's the local news report. Oh, this website's unavailable. I see how you're going to be. Let me see if I can fix that real quick. But as I said, more local news, just showing that here we go. Daily Mail is one of the others reporting it, saying that they knew 26 minutes before the shooting that this dude was up on the roof. Trump shooter Thomas Matthew Crooks was spotted on roof 26 minutes before assassination attempt. This is cops on the scene who noticed Crooks on the building 130 yards away. They told the source that I was just trying to pull up that blocked me. WPXI, again, local news, guys. Local news often will have the real deal information, and then sometimes that gets picked up by bigger outlets. Not always, but I think that's there's definitely something there. So they allegedly knew 26 minutes ahead. Now, again, this could be narrative shaping right here. We have to understand when it comes to false flag events or staged events, there's usually two different paths. People either, like, for example, with October 7th in Israel, we all know by this point, those who've been paying attention, that Israel had foreknowledge of what was going on, and it appears that they let it happen on purpose. We call that a lie hop. Sometimes it's my hop. They made it happen on purpose. That's whenever organizations, intelligence agencies, or whoever literally make something happen. Other times they might know that something's going to happen. They allow it to happen so that there's a problem, there's a reaction, and they get to propose the solution. So this could be setting up some sort of narrative, as we know with most of these things, like that's just an intelligence failure. We could have never dreamed this would happen. Oh my God. Now we have to pass a bunch of laws and take away more liberties and spy on the people, even if it doesn't make any sense. We've seen that time and time again. So they'll play like, oh shit, we just that day we were just off. Everything was so bad. And so we're going to have to, pass a bunch more bills and all that kind of crap. I think that could be a narrative shaping going on here. But nevertheless, it does seem like there's some clear failures of the Secret Service. And of course, there's calls for investigations now from Biden, from other Republicans. There's already, I think, a committee being formed. Now, one other interesting detail, a local police officer, after being notified, like we just found out they knew 26 minutes ahead, I think that at some point somebody says, hey, go up there. And the county sheriff, Michael T. Sloop, he told CNN and the Associated Press that the officers received several calls that somebody was up on the building. So again, they got warning ahead of time. Word wasn't communicated. Something went wrong. Or if it was a setup and it was meant to kill Trump to set off civil war or whatever, or even just to be this near miss to create this sympathy we're seeing. And oh my God, Trump is protected by God, which is literally happening everywhere. Then perhaps, again, they let it happen on purpose. And somebody got the intelligence, but they said, hey, somebody tapped someone else on the shoulder and said, hey, let me take this from here. And then, we've obviously got the videos you guys have seen. We're going to show in just a moment of the Secret Service guys on the roof. They're pointing in that direction. And it appears like they wait for the shot to go off before they start shooting. They clearly had the guy in their sights. But Butler County Sheriff Michael T. Sloop said that the officers received warnings and they were looking for a person. They eventually found him on the roof, and that a local cop climbed up to the roof. What I read is that an officer, grabbed his feet and kind of helped him up onto the roof. And then he peeked over and then he saw the dude with the gun, and the dude with the gun pointed it at him. And so the officer let go and went down to, save his life. And then right after that, homeboy starts shooting. Allegedly. And of course, we're also being told that there was some rudimentary incendiary devices, which basically means he had some wires and they're going to call it a bomb. I mean, that would be my guess. Nothing proven that he's a bomb. But just like with other times, oh, there was a pipe bomb found over here. They want to make this seem like this, they prevented something that could have been much worse. It was a scary day, but oh my God, if he would have been allowed to really do what he wanted to do, he was going to take off shots and then blow up a thing. Maybe so. Maybe that is legit. Maybe the guy was going to blow up his car with the alleged incendiary device in it and then distract people and then start shooting at Trump. I don't know that, but that's what we're being told at the moment. And even CNN or even this sheriff said that there was, quote, obviously a security lapse. He said this is being investigated and obviously at the end of the day, we're going to learn something from it. Oh, well, that's great. We'll learn something from it. And then 2 witnesses. Here we go with witnesses discussing further what I just mentioned, that you guys probably have seen this dude talking to the BBC. It's one of the most widely seen videos, this redhead guy. Basically says they saw him crawling on the roof, like bear crawl style, up the roof, 50 feet away from us. You can clearly see him with the rifle. And then he also says he saw them blow up the guy's head. He pointed a shooter out to the police officers who appeared to not know what was going on. He said he was wondering why Trump was still speaking when the agents were just standing there. Quote, I'm standing there pointing at the gunman for, 2 or 3 minutes. The Secret Service is looking at us. And then there's another affiliate, KDKA, CBS's local affiliate in Pittsburgh, where they talked to another guy named Ben Macer, who said, quote, we saw the guy move from roof to roof. I told the officer the alleged shooter was on the roof. And when I turned around to go back where I was, it was when gunshots started, and then it was just the chaos. And then they got another guy named Ryan Knight, who also says the same thing. I walked over about 20 minutes before the shooting happened to stand along the fence line where Trump was. As I was doing that, I was right beside the AGR building, which had the shooter on it. When I was sitting there, a guy said, oh God, he had a gun. When I looked up, there was a guy on top of the building with an MI6 with a blanket pointing at the president. He starts shooting. 4 to 5 shots ran out. I throw the guy I'm with to the ground. I jump to the ground. I look up and I see his head get split from the shot at the Secret Service. So clearly people were seeing what was going on, and this could lend credibility to the idea that, yes, the Secret Service just failed on their job. Was it on purpose? Did they let it happen and they know it was going to happen? Or, we could take it at just face value, and this is what they say it is. It's just some left, maybe left wing, former right wing, whatever. We don't know yet. Some dude radicalized by the media being told over and over that Trump is Hitler. And guess what? Trump is an authoritarian. So he is convinced that violence is the way, and he's a lone gunman, and it's everything that they say. That is a possibility in reality. I think it's the most unlikely possibility, but sure, I will acknowledge that that's a possibility, that everything is happening as they said it was in this developing official story. Now, I've found 2 unconfirmed reports of a second shooter. One was coming from NBC News, and this woman that you can see in this video here, she tells them, what I've heard coming out is that they feel there were 2 shooters, one on both sides. They got the one on the tower, but the one on the right side they never got. That's why they wanted us to leave immediately, because they thought there was still a shooter out there. Now, this is just some random lady. I can't remember her name. You can see her in this article. I don't know if that's, again, this is why I say it's unconfirmed. Just make sure before you guys go run out and share that. If I could track this woman down, that would be great, because I would like to dig into what she said a little further, and maybe even who told her that. Was it a Secret Service agent? Was it a cop? And we go find those cops. We ask questions. That's how journalism's done. Another guy, a podcaster, Kyle Matovich, who tweeted about this, he said that he tweeted that he lived 45 minutes from Butler, Pennsylvania, and that he was listening to a local radio station. I put news station, but it should say radio station. And that said that there were 2 shooters on the scene. He said, quote, 2 shooters were reported by the local radio station. It is possible that that's incorrect. I'm just reporting on to you guys what I heard from the local radio station who plays my band all the time. This guy's in a band. He's a podcaster, and he's listening to the radio station, and he hears some report. I've asked him which station. I haven't heard back yet. But again, these are unconfirmed. But if it is confirmed, it would fit a pattern that all of you guys out there know, who are informed about false flag and staged events, that there's typically more than one shooter, one person involved. They disappear, they scatter, and then it's just blamed on one crazy person, and that's convenient. And it's all tied up in a nice bow. And any discussion of other shooters is conspiracy theory. Now, at this point, this is the only reports I've seen of multiple shooters. If you guys have more, feel free to email me at derrick@theconsciousresistance.com. But yeah, this is what I got. A lady talking to NBC News and a guy tweeting about it. Not really the strongest evidence, but I'm trying to find it. If I can find the radio station, if I can look at the radio station schedule, see what news program was playing at that time, and then go back and then look up the archives and see if there's recordings, or if maybe they were just streaming from the scene and that might be in a video form. So I'm going to stay on that and see what comes next. Now we're going to get into, let me make a clear delineation here. Now I'm going to be speculating from here on. What I just shared with you are the facts with a few of my random tangents. The facts of what we know happened. Now, the rest of this report on the Trump shooting is going to be my beliefs about what I think is actually going on, asking particular questions. I don't claim to have all the answers at all, but the point of this article was to get them down on paper. It makes it a little crazy and less crazy in my head if I can do that and actually show you guys what is going on. Okay, so let me go ahead and jump back to it. Let's talk about what comes next and who benefits from this. Whoops, where'd my article go? All right, let me do this again. Thank you guys for listening. Again, this is the Conscious Resistance Live. We do this every week. Who benefits from this alleged attempt on Trump's life? There's a few possibilities I think we need to consider. First, let's assume that the story as we are hearing it is actually factual. This is what I was just saying a moment ago. This is, of course, a possibility. The assassination attempt was simply the act of a crazed lone gunman who is potentially radicalized by their hyperbolic media and divisive social media. His near miss may simply be the result of a failure on the part of the Secret Service. And if you think that may be true, we could also say that, you know how the officer was helped up with the other officer and he popped up on top of the roof and saw the guy for a moment and the guy pointed the gun at him? That might have made him go faster than he planned. If this guy is clearly pretty good at shooting, if he is the one who actually shot, and if a shot happened, I know it's blasphemous. If he is the one who took that shot, he's a pretty good shot. And so he might have been able to kill Trump with a direct hit in the head if he hadn't been hurried by this cop popping up and then freaking him out. And maybe again, if we believe their official story, and if he did have bombs or incendiary devices in his car or van or whatever, then maybe the plan was he was going to take more time. He was going to blow those. He's going to shoot Trump. Maybe he's going to shoot Trump and blow those up. And he expected to be killed, I'm sure. The point is, if what they say is true, and it is just this lone gunman, maybe that's the reason he hit Trump's ear, if that's what happened, because this officer popped up and freaked him out. Now, that still doesn't explain how the Secret Service could let the guy get up there and how nobody in this plans, because I've been listening to all the interviews, as I'm sure you guys have been, with ex-Secret Service agents and snipers and all this stuff, who do security and say, like, you would have somebody, you would have a drone, you would have a helicopter, you would have somebody watching a roof nearby, especially when you know that sniper rifles can go that far. It's not, it's not impossible to do what he tried to do. So it could just be that everything they say is true and it's just a failure of the Secret Service. Now, then it gets into theories that, okay, did they, is the Secret Service compromised, and were they trying to let Trump be killed because they thought it would set off a civil war as part of the engineered chaos that we know that the Predator class is working on? And then, of course, some of you guys out there, and I don't believe this at all, think that it could be that the Secret Service was compromised because Trump is the good guy fighting the deep state and they wanted to take him out. I don't buy that for 1 second. Another option is that the event was scripted to some capacity, although we still don't know who the full cast of characters are. And I ask here, would the Predator class stage such a near-miss assassination attempt to send a message to Trump to keep playing ball if he's allowed back in the White House? Because this is what you need to understand, Trump supporters, my friends out there. Trump wasn't, some come-behind victory that, oh my God, we can't believe he did this. Trump was allowed to win. He was allowed into the White House, just like every other person who even gets that far. As you can see here, if they want, they could assassinate somebody, and it could be a lone gunman, it could be whatever. So it's not like Trump is untouchable like so many of you think, and you've been programmed to think that. Trump has been seeded into our minds in the American media and really worldwide media since the 90s, with Home Alone and with other examples going on talk shows and Teflon Don. Like, they want you to believe that he is untouchable. And this, for many people, is just going to solidify it further. He's here saved by God. I think it's scary stuff that's happening here. So let's continue on. Again, would they stage this near miss as a warning to Trump to play ball? I mean, it could be, because I do believe there's factions at the top of the Predator class, and at best, Trump represents an occasional wild card, but he follows the agenda when push comes to shove. Or perhaps they intended for this lone gunman to succeed and kill Trump so they could use his death to incite the civil war, and they failed. Again, this is just me putting out ideas, and I'm sure you guys have all considered this at this point. I believe these questions are totally worth asking, even if some of you are offended by it. Like, Derrick, it was just 48 hours ago. Well, it's still time to ask questions. And I don't claim to know for certain. And if we get more evidence with time, which we will, and we can decide if we trust that evidence, that proves this official story is true, then I'm happy to say, hey, you know what, guys, I was wrong in the beginning. I was speculating and I jumped in there, but turns out it is what they claim. And if that's what I believe in the end, I will report back to you guys soon and say that. Right now, I think there's still questions to ask. However, if the Secret Service failed, it wouldn't be the first time, of course. Maybe we should ask President John F. Kennedy a little bit about that. I'm of the belief, based on facts, and I link here in my article, and just pull these up real quick so that everybody listening can get a little taste, especially if we've got any people who've made it this long who are Trump supporters and who are still listening, because I want you to be here. I'm hoping that some of these things sink in, because as I'll show you guys in a moment, I actually got sent a message from a woman recently, or a comment telling me that, you know, she voted for Trump in 2016 and 2020, but because of my efforts and other folks, I'm sure, she finally sees the truth about him. People do wake up, just like it took a little while, but people woke up to Obama's lies after they thought he'd be better than Bush. So they figured like, hey, I'm going to support him. And then no, he turned out to be the same. I wrote this article in 2021. Here are 18 ways Trump supported the swamp during his presidency. That's linked in this article. I wrote this one in 2018. When will Trump supporters in the freedom movement realize they were duped? I could probably still write this today and it'd be just as relevant. And then last year, I wrote this one, Dear Freedom Movement, Donald Trump is not a friend of liberty. And each of these articles are not just me stating opinions, but showing you facts where Trump proves that he is anti-liberty and he's willing to violate the precious Constitution if it benefits him. So because of that, I believe that Trump is playing a role for the Predator class. He's just another player for them, the people who actually run the pyramid of power that manipulate our world. He's an actor playing a role. And interestingly, guys, I threw this in there because some of you, you might agree. When you look at Trump's time at the World Wrestling Entertainment, WWE, it used to be WWF, WWE, the fake wrestling. When you look at that, and then you look at that picture, that great picture that everybody's so impressed by, it's kind of hard to tell the difference, right? Like here, let me just pull up some real quick on the screen. Like here's Trump at one of his WWE events. Yeah, fist in the air, right? Here's another one, fist in the air. And there's the fist in the air of the shot. And, it's kind of hard to tell the difference, right? I'm not saying, again, that it's 100% staged, but we should acknowledge that Donald Trump does have IMDb page for his film credits, and that he was literally involved in fake wrestling as a heel and, playing this character. He also has connections to Jeffrey Epstein, his mentor with Roy Cohn, who's a known pedophile, who helped, he was bailed out by the Rothschild bankers in the 1990s through Wilbur Ross. I mean, we could go on and on. But the point is I believe Trump is the great divider, and that this attempted assassination, all it does is empower Trump further, whether it was planned or not, or just by, just accident, or believe it if you want, the grace of the creator, Trump was saved. Unfortunately, it only is going to make him stronger. Pretty much we can all guarantee he's going to win the election. That's going to be the scripted narrative. Biden is already being, like, his own people are coming after him. They're trying to figure out how to get rid of him. This just makes Trump even stronger in his eyes of the people. And they're literally, I shared the picture. There's a picture, I don't have it right here. You guys might have seen it, where like Trump's cowered down in between the Secret Service agents. Again, another good photographer got that picture. Could it be staged? Maybe, but it could have just been an awesome photographer. And Trump isn't praying, I think, but he's got his hands kind of clasped, and people are like, oh, this is the moment where he realized God protected him. And he put out a statement saying, it was God alone who prevented the unthinkable from happening. We will fear not, but instead remain resilient in our faith and defiant in the face of wickedness. I think it's very possible this saved by the hands of God angle is going to push more people to even support him. Like right away, Elon Musk, I fully endorse Donald Trump right after the shot. And of course, Russell Brand and a lot of other people, Luke Rakowski, who's somebody I've known since 2011. I just got sick of it and I had to call him out on Twitter. I'd be getting trolled by Trump Trump supporters and the worst kind of them, the blind kind, the Elon worshipers, the Trump worshipers, the last 24 hours. But guys, I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. It needs to be called out. This is an important time right now. It's either going to be that people fall for more deception and the charade continues and we end up in a very bad place, the technocratic state, the techno tyranny, or people wake up and realize that these puppets are not going to save us. I really think we're going to see a further push of Trump towards this evangelical Christian Zionism, maybe Christian nationalism post-assassination. And, maybe because he survived this, anybody who was remaining on the right side who might have been a little skeptical towards Trump, or even was like, yeah, I'm going to vote for him, but he's not that great. He's bad in this area and that area. Now they're just like, whatever, Trump's our hero. He survived. Like, oh my God, this is a man of God. There's nothing more. What do I need to know? I'm ready to vote for him now. Give me the ballot. Like, let's do it. This is the narrative that I'm seeing. So what comes next? In my view, order out of chaos. I warned in 2020, and I wrote this article here about a false flag coming in 2020. It wasn't on the election day. Of course, it was near Inauguration Day. But I wrote this article for The Last American Vagabond called The Establishment's Plan to Divide Part 2. I wrote one in 2016 as well called The Establishment's Plan to Divide, COVID-19, Election 2020, and the Great Reset. And it pretty much what I said has come true. The chaos, the division continues. The predator class wants chaos so then they can implement order. And they're going to create chaos any way they can. And to be honest, let's be real. If that means killing a presidential candidate who's supported by millions of people and then also detested by millions of people, then they would do it if that's what they really want. So either Trump got really lucky, or he is saved by God, as some of you want to believe, or it was intended to not harm him. And that's an incredible, Trump would have, if he knew about it, would have to trust so much that, that he was not going to be killed. And some people say, oh, look, he moved at the last minute. That was God saving him. I don't know. Again, I don't claim to know if Trump knows in this instance or not, but I do believe Trump knows he's a puppet overall. Like, he's a big man tied to mafia. He thinks he's a big boss, but at the end of the day, he goes and kisses the ring of Israel and Zionism and the Rothschilds and other people behind the scenes, the predator class. He talks big, talks crap about the media, Hillary Clinton, etc., but he's tricked so many of well-intentioned truthers and freedom lovers out there into thinking that it's just the left wing, the pedophile demons. It's just Hillary Clinton and that family. Pay no attention to the right wing stuff. It's just them. All we need to do is just become conservative and vote right wing and everything's going to be fixed. My friends, it's not that simple. On some topics, yes, the right wing, the conservatives, the Republican Party can be better. And then let's be real as well. If you're willing to be honest, the left is better on some issues too. This is what the whole thing is about. They want to keep you in this false dichotomy of like, oh no, I got to vote for these guys. I got to vote for these guys. And we're going to get into this in this next break. This is what the Great Inversion is all about, the false awakening, having you going back and forth between these two polarities, which essentially represent the same machine. Yes, in some ways they're different. Abortion, the environment, and the left has gotten much, much worse. They're pushing transgender stuff on people. They're, the culture war, all that. And I think that stuff matters. That's why I report on it. But that is by design. This is my essential theory here of the Great Inversion, and everything you're seeing in front of you. This is fifth generation warfare that's been scripted to make you think that Trump is a hero. And I literally can see these responses from people when I'm debating them on Twitter and elsewhere. They're like, oh, right, all the media attacks him, and you're telling me he's a bad guy. That's exactly why they do it. It is a scripted thing. I'm not saying every single journalist out there is part of the plan. Many of them truly do hate Trump and have lost their minds in some ways. They don't report on like, hey, he's a Zionist. They report on like, oh, he had an affair. And they are using lawfare and things to go after him. I'm not saying none of that stuff is happening. The courtroom's not there. The charges aren't there. But it's by design. This is fifth generation warfare. This is the real 4D chess, not the 44D chess that Trump is somehow a good guy, despite all signs to the opposite, all reality to the opposite, showing who he really is. So they attack him. Not only does that serve the purpose of the mainstream corporate media losing credibility, so more people exit, and then they want to look for alternatives. And what do? The predator class provides alternatives. What we have now called, what David Icke, and I think it's a great term, call the mainstream alternative media. And again, this goes back to the Great Inversion, believing in people like Tucker Carlson, Elon Musk, Donald Trump, that these are the real heroes and they're the only ones standing between us and complete tyranny. And if we don't have them on our side and we don't vote for Donald Trump, then it's just going to be communism as soon as Joe Biden gets in office. And obviously that hasn't happened. Yes, we saw a lot of bad things that continue and will continue under Biden or Trump. But the left says if Trump gets in office, it's going to be fascism, right-wing nationalism, and Christian nationalism. And they might be right. And the right wing says if Biden gets in office, it's going to be communism. And to some degree, they're right. But at the end of the day, you're both being led astray. Go back and study the work of, study technocracy, the whole theory, the whole philosophy behind it. This is what my book, How to Opt Out of the Technocratic State's about. Look up Anthony Sutton and Patrick Wood's early work on the Trilateral Commission. And they've known for generations that these parties both use, just like the banking class funded Hitler and they funded the communists. Yeah, go read Sutton, Anthony C. Sutton, read his work, read this historian's work. He's dead now, but he left the legacy of truth. They fund both sides, the socialists, the communists, the nationalists, and they'll use them against each other. They use them to divide the people, but their real philosophy is technocracy. Management by scientific and technocratic elite of society. And sure, that has some elements, you could say, of communism and some of fascism, but it says that there should be no political parties and no voting, but that managerial class should be in charge, and they're the ones who should make all our decisions for us. And when they were saying this back in the day, it was crazy because they didn't have the technology to do so. How in the world were they going to have some computer or some device? They just called it a machine. They didn't even have computers as we know them. There's going to be a machine that's going to track all resources and it'll distribute them evenly, we promise. And it'll be so just and sustainable and equitable. Where have we heard these words? And people will get energy credits. Where have we heard this idea? Yeah, back then in the 1920s and 30s, it sounded crazy. But now in 2024, with AI, with digital identities, with central bank digital currencies, with social credit scores, and this giant big tech monopoly, which Elon Musk is a part of, they can make it happen. So you're fighting false demons. Yes, fascism should be opposed and communism should be opposed. They're both horrible philosophies that do not lead to liberty. They lead to bad consequences. But the banking class, the predator class, the real people in power have used them throughout history to divide and conquer us, and use them when it's beneficial. They'll support a right-wing nationalist dictator. They'll support a left-wing fascist, whatever happens. Communism, if it serves their purposes and it leads to more death because they are eugenicists and they want less people living, then they will do it. That's the simple matter. And the sad fact is, my friends, is that this whole Trump thing is pushing more and more people further into the system. And it's never been it's never an easy time to be an anarchist, a voluntarist, a principled person during voting selection season, because we just see people who are like, I love freedom. And they're like, oh my God, did you know that there's pedophiles controlling the world and the intelligent networks are doing this and they assassinated JFK and they've done all, 9/11 and this. Now I'm going to go vote for somebody, because that's going to fix it. I mean, the freaking cognitive dissonance is off the chart. So it's always a difficult time. But now that there's been an attempted assassination on Trump, it is rough out here for those of us who don't believe in government and think that humans can actually, organize their own lives without force, without violence. That is the inherent nature of government as a system, as an entity. Those of us who believe that we are capable of, powerful and free and beautiful enough to organize on our local communities, organize our own affairs, and to create better systems than the corrupted ones we have. It's tough out here. It's a hard time to be one of those people. And unfortunately, that's where I'm at. So guys, the article, one more time, let me show it to you, is at The Last American Vagabond. You can find it there right now, just published today. We must question the attempted assassination of Donald Trump, asking all those questions and more. We're going to take a real quick break, be back in a minute and a half, and we're going to talk about the Great Inversion. You guys aren't going to want to miss this. Stay tuned.
Are you using your phone, or is it using you? Rise above mass surveillance and discover a phone that protects your privacy and communications.
Above Phone does everything your old phone does, without tracking you, while giving you complete control over your phone and apps. We are better than big tech. It works with any cell service. No forced logins. No advertising or tracking. Download apps privately. Control your phone and its apps with secure hardware. Introducing Above Suite. Protects your internet traffic. Private email on any device. Video call with friends privately. Encrypted chat, calls, and internet phone. Protect your searches and get results. Don't worry if you're new. Every phone includes a free 45-minute live call. You also get free email and chat support, free guides, and video courses. We can take back our technology. We're here to help with tools and education. You have the power.
Rise above with Above Phone.
AbovePhone.com.
That is Above Phone. Let me show you guys this one more time. AbovePhone.com. I think it's just AbovePhone.com/bros. If you want to get a discount, let me pop that, make that a little bigger. For those of you who use a phone, which is probably all of you, and want to have a little bit more privacy and get off big tech, here's a real solution. You don't have to wait till November to do this. You can vote with your actions right now and stop supporting Google and Apple and all that crap. Go to AbovePhone.com/dbros and you can get $50 off. And I think there's like another discount with it. But either way, if you buy that, it'll support you. It'll help you out. Everything you're doing, maps, docs, music, etc. You can do it with this phone with decentralized open source alternative versions of the same apps you're using already. I don't even use a phone, but my partner uses this. It's great. We've had it for a couple of years now. They've got numerous models. They've also now have the Above book. They're selling laptops, which have been de-Googled, de-Microsoft, etc. And if you're serious about privacy, encourage you to check it out. All right. I saw that is not Eric Prince's phone at all. No, do not support Eric Prince. In fact, that's just freaking insane that so many people in the freedom movement, which again, this is part of what I'm about to talk about, the Great Inversion, who forget like Eric Prince, Blackwater, crazy, insane person. And, also, again, somebody else who said he's a warrior of Christ fighting the war on terror for Christianity and stuff like that. I mean, that's some scary stuff. And I don't know why people are falling for that. But all right, let's continue now. We're going to discuss the Great Inversion. As I mentioned earlier, this is a phrase that I've been kind of bringing into my work here and there for the last year or two. But I haven't done a video, haven't discussed what exactly the heck that phrase means. And I figured, you know what, it's about time. So that is what we're going to do now. I sort of alluded to it before we hit this break, talking about the fact that people like Donald Trump, Elon Musk, I would say Tucker Carlson, I don't know who else to include in there where I feel confidently about. I would say these three gentlemen I feel confidently about that they are not on our side. You could maybe add Joe Rogan to be skeptical about, Russell Brand, some other people. I'm on the fence. I know everybody's got their opinions on this, but I do know for a fact that there are people who are not what they represent. Do I have their CIA agent badge? No, of course not. But hey, Tucker Carlson did intern at the CIA years ago, and his dad has been connected to all kinds of crazy stuff for those of you who fall for the Tucker Carlson train. So there are some real things to ask about these people. And when I say Great Inversion, I usually also say false awakening, because I think that gets the point to people, But right now I'm going to break down what I mean by Great Inversion, where I heard it from, which is from a girl named Alexandra, a channel. She goes by Probably Alexandra. And then also talking about Rudolf Steiner and his views on Lucifer and Ahriman and these two different entities or energies and how they represent, they're on the same plane, they're just different poles of that. But the real truth, the real solution, what he refers to as like the Christ consciousness energy, is completely separate and above from that. And I essentially believe that that's what we're witnessing. We've got the clear enemy, let's say it's the leftist for right now, and the people representing the Great Reset and all these horrible things that we're seeing. And then the opposite polarity of that is this apparent awakening, like, oh my God, Elon Musk saved Twitter and the Twitter files. Pay no attention to the fact that he's using an Israeli firm with connections to Israeli intelligence to process ID verification for people. But we've got him, and then Tucker Carlson broke free from Fox News, and now he's just spitting truth all day and waking people up. And Russell Brand, he's no longer, in Hollywood. He's just had this awakening. Oh, wouldn't you guess? Now he's Christian. And Jordan Peterson, apparently he's going down that road as well. And then, of course, we got Donald Trump, obviously. And there's other figures. Again, I'm sure you guys can think of others that you might fit in this category. But that is what I see this Great Inversion as. It's this false light that is being presented. Yes, you can clearly see the darkness, and you understand like these people over here and their sick ideologies do not represent what I believe in. But then at the same time, for some people, it's a lot harder to look at the apparent heroes that are being put in front of us and realize that they are part of the same equation. They are just this false light. that they're the false light in this great inversion. And for me also, inversion means to invert something, right? So you flip it, you make it up backwards or upside down, inside out. I also think that the great inversion represents this periodic, like in terms of humanity, Steiner says this is something we've been dealing with for generations, for thousands of years. But also I think just maybe every few decades or something, like particularly to the United States. It's been for a while now that people have realized that the left is getting crazier and crazier the last 8 years as Trump has had his rise. But at the same time, Trump is also bad in all these different ways. And so people who are like, for example, a lot of people move to Texas, move to Mexico, and they're like, oh man, I consider myself an old school liberal or Democrat, but I don't fit in with these crazy people anymore in California and New York. They're just going too far. But at the same time, those people don't necessarily buy into the right-wing nationalism and things that the conservatives support. They end up being what many of us have called politically homeless, right? People who, I'm independent, I'm politically homeless, I don't really know where I fit in, I kind of like these things, but these people are too extreme, but it's kind of extreme on the right over here too. And those people are trying to decide, well, what's right? What's my path? Where do I go? And all of these new media heroes are telling us Trump is the way, Elon Musk is the way. Clearly, being right-wing, being conservative is the true path to freedom. We all see these crazy progressives, and we know that that's not good. So then the answer must be the opposite. And unfortunately, us silly human beings, we're so simple in many ways. We're so brilliant and beautiful too, but we're also so simple in many ways that we can fall for these false dichotomies that tell us it must be this thing or it must be that thing. And, that life isn't always that simple and binary. And I don't think it's also as easy as just saying that Elon Musk and these other people are pure evil. I get that, because some people might say, well, Derrick, you're being black and white with them. What about the good things Elon's done or this and that? Sure, I'll give you that. You could point at something and say, okay, that's better than worse, and Trump did that, or Musk did that, or Carlson had that great interview or whatever. But I don't think that means that in the bigger picture, they're aligned with us and that we're fighting the same battle. I think these people they represent themselves as something different than they really are. So that is essentially what the Great Inversion is. Let's get into this a little deeper, and I'll actually read you what I wrote. I just literally wrote this an hour. I was writing for about an hour and a half before we went live. This is why I was a few minutes late. To understand the insanity of the current and upcoming geopolitical events, you must understand the Great Inversion. Now, I just find it in this way: a false awakening whereby the steadily waking masses of freedom lovers are duped once more into falling for fake heroes and messiahs and stealthily manipulated into supporting their own enslavement. And I kind of already covered this: Elon Musk, Donald Trump, Tucker Carlson, and I pointed out why I don't think that he is a friend. You could also talk about Musk. Like, Musk promotes brain trips, transhumanism. He uses his Starlink satellite to support war in Ukraine, and pretty much generally promotes a vision of the future that looks awfully lot like the World Economic Forum and Klaus Schwab's Fourth Industrial Revolution. He just claims it's for freedom and all these other things. Oh yeah, the Twitter files and it's a free speech platform, free speech, except for Zionism and some of these other topics. Obviously, there's still a lot of people exposing Israel, but there are instances of people being censored still. It hasn't stopped as much as people might like to believe. I believe the bigger picture is that the predator class wants Donald Trump to win the U.S. election to create more false hope in disillusioned Americans, conservatives, and libertarians who haven't quite seen what Trump actually represents. From there, we will see the push for more chaos before order is implemented. And I give the example, and I was saying this on social media last week, like, you guys saw Biden's horrible performance at the debate, and you saw the interview that followed, or you probably heard about it. He's not doing good. And now there's like this unprecedented push from like Democratic donors and the celebrities, and people are like, Biden, step down, to keep saying, I'm not going anywhere. And the media is just like, oh my God, how could we have not known that Biden is such in bad shape, when all of us out here with eyes and ears have been pointing at and occasionally laughing at the various videos of Biden clearly looking lost. And in fact, I really do think it's a sad case of elder abuse. I think that argument is legit out there. It's not just trolling, that they literally might be abusing this old man for the purpose of maintaining power and trying to maintain the illusion that they're still in control. But why would the DNC and the people who really control them, the donor class behind them and the people behind those donors, why would they all of a sudden just decide, like, everybody got the message as soon as the debate ended, attack Biden, go after him. And I talked about this a couple months ago, that you could see the signs starting to show that they were, it was no longer like, oh, shut up, those are right-wing talking points. All of a sudden it was acceptable to start talking about Biden's age. And these people are just playing this game like, oh my God, who could have imagined this was, going on? And is he going to run? Is he going to step aside? Is it going to be Kamala? Is it going to be Gavin Newsom? And this shit is all designed to keep you paying attention to this season in America, the election drama. It's a freaking script. And the more that they play these kind of games, the easier it is for them to keep you entertained and watching. And the powers that wish they were, if Trump wins, which appears very likely, they're going to be able to pacify, once again, many freedom lovers who have fallen for the Trump deception. And they will also at the same time trigger the heck out of the leftists, so that we can expect more riots, more fighting in the street, and more authoritarianism from Trump's administration, especially post-assassination, whereas we were just talking about a couple of moments ago, that many people have now deified him and essentially see him as touched by the hand of God. So they're going to make all kinds of excuses for him if they weren't already. Now, let's get a little deeper into the Great Inversion. As I mentioned, I first heard this term from probably Alexandra. You can find her all over the place, probablyalexandra.com. I linked to her in this article. She is a Christian content creator. I'm not a Christian. I don't have anything against Christians per se. I come from a Christian family, but my analysis is not coming from a Christian background. Hers is. Either way, I think she's very spot on in her analysis. And in fact, just yesterday, right after the Trump assassination attempt, she put out a new blog on Substack and her website talking about the Great Inversion. And she says, quote, "The concept of the Great Inversion suggests that major societal events are manipulated or staged to create a specific narrative or achieve certain objectives. Incidents of violence, especially involving prominent figures, instill fear and uncertainty among the population. This fear can be leveraged to introduce new policies, increase surveillance, or justify authoritarian measures. In this case, it will likely further the light side of the agenda of gaining control over current institutions and bringing about change. They want to shift the narrative and continue the further inversion." And in an older blog, she says this: "The inversion represents the shift from the current world order to a newer world order, but not in the way most are conditioned to expect. It's the inversion from dark to light. But again, this is the false light." So she says here, the Great Reset, dark; the Great Awakening, light. Globalists make up what most falls into the dark side. They are identified by their beliefs. For the sake of this article, anyone in the public eye who is against globalist ideas would be considered to be the light side of the agenda and all it entails. The opposite. At the moment, we're being told it's globalism, centralization, mass censorship, the Great Reset, etc., versus nationalism, alleged decentralization, free-ish speech, the Great Awakening, sovereignty, etc. And then she looks at the word inversion. The word inversion means the action of inverting something or the state of being inverted, a reversal. In some cases, inversion is the opposite, dark and light, hot and cold, etc. These opposites are poles of one another. So again, this idea of being on the same plane but polar opposites. Poles consisting of two opposing ideas, varying only in degree, united by the axis. This discussion of poles and the ideas which appear opposed yet actually aligned in one capacity is another vital part to our conversation. Just like the Republican Democratic parties, again, I said this a couple moments ago, this is how most of us understand this concept, that it seems like they're diametrically opposed, and on some issues they are, but when it comes to war, surveillance, Zionism, and taking away the rights of the people, we can count on both parties to come together and a bipartisan effort and rob the people economically and all those fun things. At the end of the day, they serve the same masters. And Alexandra believes that there have been inversions throughout history, but the current one we're dealing with is a worldwide shift, and I agree with that as well. And here again, she talks about the poles. She says, quote, "The Great Inversion consists of two poles, dark and light. You can also think of the poles as the right or left hand joined by the body. They are not independent of each other, nor are they enemies. They work in a symbiotic relationship to accomplish a shared goal, no matter how messy that appears to be. The poles are joined by an axis, thus the two can never be separated. They can only vary in degree. They divide in order to conquer." And that is essentially what I think the Great Inversion is. So that's giving credit where credit's due. I did not make up the term the Great Inversion, although you're going to continue to hear me use it. And maybe some of you guys are resonating with that. Thanks to everybody who's listening right now. We got a good amount of viewers across YouTube, 2 YouTube channels, Twitter, Facebook, 2 Facebook pages, Odyssey, Rockfin. This will be posted later on BitChute, on Substack, on Spotify, etc. Thank you guys all for supporting me. Let's continue. We got one more section. Right now we are discussing the Great Inversion and the false awakening and how I believe this is what we are dealing with. Now, we're going to take it back 100 years ago to 1919 to the philosopher, the anthroposophical philosopher and founder, Rudolf Steiner. I've done a video or two about Rudolf Steiner in the past, and I've been wanting to do something about this whole thing, and there will be more deep dives coming up. And I think many of you Christians as well, maybe not mainstream Christians, but esoteric Christians or just open-minded Christians might be interested in Rudolf Steiner's talks on Christianity. In fact, I have this one. This is called, I know this is a different one. This is called An Outline of Occult Science. This one right here, Christianity as a Mystical Fact. This is by Rudolf Steiner. It's a collection of one of his, or a couple of his lectures. So in 1919, he gave a talk called Lucifer and Ahriman, where he outlined a very similar concept to what we're talking about of the Great Inversion, but he talked about Christ, Lucifer, and what he calls Ahriman. So again, even though I'm not a Christian, I do think that the way Steiner uses this analysis can be applied to our circumstances, whether you're religious or not. And he didn't even mean it in this specific way necessarily about the way maybe Christians imagine, with like a horned guy with devil horns and all this kind of stuff. But regardless, these forces represent, whether or not they represent literal physical beings or not, I believe this is a topic that we cannot ignore. So Steiner believed that there exist two forces of evil. One of them came in the form of Lucifer, and the other one came in the form of Ahriman. And although these two forces appear to be totally different, and they incarnate differently, because he said, there is an incarnation of Lucifer that happened in the past, and that we're witnessing, or it may already have happened, the incarnation of Ahriman. And again, he said that they're actually on the same plane of existence. And in his sort of diagram or his model, you got Lucifer and Ahriman Lucifer on one side and Ahriman on the other. And then above that, you have this Christ consciousness, this Christ energy above and beyond both those forces. The Steiner online library says that, quote, that Steiner warned that, quote, humanity must walk a conscious middle path between the two tempting powers of Lucifer and Ahriman, where Lucifer could be said to represent a false light with a focus on spiritual practices which take people away from the Christ energy. Ahriman represents materialism and a more mechanical and static energy. And while the two forces appear to work against each other, they are actually working more and more together as time passes. And Steiner said in his lecture, quote, just as there was the incarnation which culminated in Golgotha, the incarnation of Christ in the man Jesus of Nazareth, there was an actual incarnation of Lucifer in far-off Asia in the 3rd millennium BC. And the source of inspiration for much ancient culture was what can only be described as an earthly incarnation of Lucifer in a man of flesh and blood. So he basically says that Luciferian energy came into human being at some point, kind of like the Christ allegedly did, and that is responsible for a lot of the problems we've seen over the generations. But he says that these aren't the only incarnations. He said, quote, before only a part of the 3rd millennium of the post-Christian era has elapsed, which is about now, I believe, right? 1,000, 2,000, now we're only, I guess this is the beginning of the 3rd millennium, you could claim. Maybe not, but we'll continue. Before only a part of the 3rd millennium, the post-Christian era has elapsed, there will be in the West an actual incarnation of Ahriman in the flesh. And while Steiner says that the forces of Lucifer and Christ are more familiar to humanity, he warns that humanity is completely uninformed and ill-prepared for the Ahrimanic energy to arrive here. He says, quote, if Ahriman were able to slink into a humanity unaware of his coming, that would gladden him most of all. And it is for this reason that the occurrences and trends in which Ahriman is working for this future incarnation must be brought to light. And the time has now come for individual men to know which tendencies and events around them are machinations of Ahriman, helping him to prepare for his approaching incarnation. Steiner also warned that in his own day that people, quote, no longer value the spirit for the sake of the spirit or the soul for the sake of the soul, and are only entranced by what is regarded as useful. And he claimed that nationalism was actually a benefit to Ahriman and that it represented an opportunity for him or it to take hold of humanity. He said, quote, whatever can separate men into groups, whatever can alienate them from mutual understanding of the whole world over and drive wedges between them, strengthens Ahriman's impulse. He says that, quote, blood relationships have ceased to be the decisive factor in human relationships, but if nationalism persisted, it would, quote, be playing straight into the hands of Ahriman. He also warned that Ahriman's interests are promoted by humanity being captured by political parties. So he believed that nationalism, political parties, and anything that separates us from spirit and from the soul and from each other is this Ahrimanic energy. And I think that's what we're seeing. He says, as with Alexander's discussion on the poles, Steiner sees these two forces as representing opposite poles with similar objectives and outcomes. He says, quote, Ahriman and Lucifer always work hand in hand. The only question is which of the two predominates in man's consciousness at a particular epoch of time. And he warned that Ahriman's activities were coming into prominence. And he said this in 1919, about 100 years ago. And so that brings me towards the end of what I've already outlined and shared with you guys. Like, you guys kind of already get my thoughts and opinions on Trump and Elon. I shared a little bit Tucker Carlson. I believe that they represent this false light that we are seeing. We can see the darkness, but now we're going to see this flip. Everybody's going to think there's been a real awakening and that it was caused by Trump and Elon Musk and Tucker Carlson. And then when they start to show their true colors and they do bring on the authoritarianism and the technocratic state that we know, the Great Reset that they claim to be opposed to, when they help it come about in one way or the other, so many people are going to make excuses for it because they've fallen for this spell for these men and women in some cases. That is what Ahriman is all about. That is what this Luciferian and Ahriman kind of balance is about, or call it the Great Inversion, left, right, false light. That's when I say the Great Inversion, when I talk about false awakening, that is what I'm talking about, guys. And that article is at theconsciousresistance.com. I noticed a couple of typos, so give me 30 minutes to go fix those after this. But please share it. Please share both of the articles I showed you today. I wrote these. I stayed up till 2 a.m. last night researching and writing the Trump one. We got it published at thelastamericanvagabond.com. I got that out today, and then I got this one out and ready for the show. These are two important articles that I think explain what's going on right now. People need to be asking questions about the Trump assassination, of course, and see what Trump assassination attempt, and see what we find out next. But also, I think that it really, this Great Inversion conversation, helping people understand what's really at play here, is another big piece of the puzzle. Like, I don't think we are genuinely witnessing. It's not to say that there's no awakening happening. Like, I do think there's awakening. I mean, I think a lot of the things I'm involved with are part of the awakening, not just us, but there's a lot of other people. But it's not going to come in politics. Go to thegreaterreset.org and see what we're doing with the People's Reset. We're holding events in North America, now in the UK. We're countering the World Economic Forum, not just by talking about it or just holding signs and chanting, which has its place, but actually saying, you know what, if they're going to work night and day on their idea and their vision of the future, why don't we do the same thing? They're planning a Great Inversion. They're trying to fool people into this false awakening. Well, you know what? We're going to be so focused on how our 2030 is going to look and beyond. In my 2030, guys, it's going to be living on land with clean water, good food. I've already got the land. I've already got community we're building. We're going to be growing soon. We've got fruit trees, and helping other people gain the skills, how to take care of themselves through self-defense, how to get off big tech, how to heal your mind, body, and spirit, because you got to exit and build from slavery systems, and some of the biggest slavery systems are doubts, fears, insecurities, and limiting beliefs that hold us back. That is what Ahriman and Lucifer and these fake wannabe saviors prey upon. They prey upon our own insecurities and our doubts and our traumas, which make so many of our brothers and sisters fall into this trap of thinking that they need a hero, that they need to be saved by somebody. Look, and putting religion aside, you don't need to be saved by anybody. You definitely don't need to be saved by some political hack who doesn't really care about you. And when I talk about this, people say, well, what are you going to do then, Derrick? You're going to vote for Biden? Oh, that's like the most low level thinking. Yes, if I don't like one guy, I must like the other guy. No, I'm not voting for Biden. No, I'm not voting for RFK Jr. They're all Zionists. I'm not voting for any of those people, and I don't play political games like that. But that doesn't mean I'm apathetic. Somebody told me earlier, oh, you're an accelerationist. You just want everything to collapse and crash. No, I don't. In fact, I don't. I'm horrified that will happen, because there's so many people who are still dependent on government systems around the world that we will see a lot of death, and it will be chaotic. But I wish, and I pray, and I work towards a time where we can get away from being dependent on governments and empowering people to see that we don't need them, that we don't need Elon Musk's in the billionaire class, and we don't need Donald Trump, and we don't need Joe Biden or any of these people, Obama, to lead us. We have the power within our own hearts and minds, because the Creator did bring us here. The Creator breathed life into us to exist on the planet at this moment in time, to be connecting with each other across digital platforms for the purpose of trying to transmute this chaos into something better. That's exactly what we need to do. They've got their dark light, their dark and their false light. They've got their Agenda 2030 and their Great Reset and their Fourth Industrial Revolution. We need the people's reset. We need our own vision of 2030 and beyond. Agora 2030, Liberty 2030. This is what I put my energy into. I'm not an accelerationist. I'm not apathetic. I'm not giving up. I just know that we can't expect a system that is literally run by pedophiles and co-opted by intelligence networks, which have no problem assassinating people, killing people, murdering them, murdering children, and thinking that voting is going to fix it, especially when every single person who's running, you know, people out there make excuses for Trump. Trump just picked this J.D. Vance guy who only became, into politics because of Peter Thiel gave him $15 million. Who's Peter Thiel? Founder of PayPal, big part of Palantir, investing in Palantir, which is the surveillance tech company you need to know about if you don't know about. Also, Peter Thiel's a steering committee member of the Bilderberg Group. I'm sure that's going to be great. But no, people make excuses. Well, because he's got to do what he's got to do to get into politics and blah, blah. They're making you participate in evil. You are participating in that great inversion, that Luciferian harmonic energy, one side or the other. You're still playing the game, my friends. The true answer, the one way they don't know how to deal with us, because guess what? They know how to deal with assassinations, with violence. They fucking kill you. They throw you in prison. And violence shouldn't be encouraged. It's not going to help anybody. They know how to deal with you if you vote. And if you try to have some insurgent candidacy, like say a Ron Paul or somebody else, and even Robert F. Kennedy Jr., even though he's a Zionist, they're clearly blocking him out of the game. Although I think there's a script being played out still. He might have a come behind victory. I'm calling it. Maybe we'll see. If you have an insurgent candidacy, they're not going to let you in. They're going to change the game, screw you over. They control all the levers, my friends. And that's not a defeatist position. It is a realistic, accepting fucking reality of how much control they do have. That doesn't mean we have no control, but you outsource your power. You give away your power when you choose to go press that button in the ballot box and put your little sticker on because you voted every 2 years and 4 years. You're giving away your power and saying, please, Donald Trump, please, Joe Biden, please, anybody, fix the world for me, do something for me, because I'm just too busy working in a freaking rat race and tired and exhausted and trying to just live my life and raise my kids and have a good time, that I don't have time to do anything for my own self and my own community. And that is by design. I'm not blaming you. This is not victim blaming. They created this entire system so you could constantly be in that rat race and not have time to educate yourself, to empower yourself, to become an entrepreneur, to become free from their systems. It is by design. But if you make the time, my friends, if you take a little bit of energy, if you download my book for free at theconsciousresistance.com/how-to, or purchase it in Spanish, English, German, or French, or listen to the audiobook for free, then you can get some ideas, and maybe you start putting in a couple of hours extra a week to saving up some money to buy some land or to pool some land with some freedom members in your community, to learning new skills, to learning about permaculture, to learning about the above phone, getting off big tech. There are so many solutions. There are so many ways you can vote with your actions on the daily basis that do not involve participating in a rigged, evil, corrupted system. Stop playing the game. That's the answer. That's the answer. That's the fucking answer. I know some of you guys don't want to hear that because it just seems so like that seems like, but what am I doing, Derrick? What you're saying sounds hard. It sounds like I have to change my lifestyle. I might have to change my habits. I might have to change who I am. I might have to rethink how I live and who I work with. And it sounds like a lot of work. It's just so much easier for me to trust that Trump is going to fix things or that Elon's going to fix everything. I just want to press the button, Derrick. Please don't make me work. Please don't actually make me responsible for my own actions and my own choices and my own behavior. I'm sorry, but I can't do that. I have to be the annoying guy talking in your ear saying, please, my friends, can we try to live in line with our values and principles? Because we have young ones depending on us. We have those who are not born yet coming into this world they're just depending on us. They have no say in what happens right now, but you do, I do. We're awake, right? We're aware, we know what's going on, but what the fuck are you doing about it? It's not enough to be awake. You must be activated. You must be action oriented, because you can be awake and you can get marched all the way into the FEMA camp or into the COVID concentration camp or whatever. If you don't act, if you don't do anything, if we see what's coming, if we're the enlightened one, the forward-thinking people, and we can see the train wreck on the horizon, but we choose not to act, we are only selling out ourselves. We're selling out our ancestors, and everybody, no matter what part of the planet you come from, every single one of our ancestors had to go through blood, sweat, and tears to get us here right now existing. And if you choose to not act, you're selling them out and everything they did to get you here. But not only that, you're selling those coming 7 generations and beyond that you will never meet, your kids, grandchildren, etc., that are depending on you. Wake up, stop playing slave games, and realize that the only answer is going to come from us, in our own hearts, in our own communities, coming together, organizing, and building the better world that we know is possible, my friends. That's what it's about. We'll be right back. So I've recently partnered with my friend Sean Hawkins of the company Cultivated Mind. He focuses on organic mushroom extracts, which are designed to help you physically, mentally, and maybe even more than that. I've just been testing them out recently. You may have seen my interview with Sean discussing this. We went over some of the specific benefits of the various types of mushrooms that Sean uses. I think it's a really exciting product to be a part of because not only are they organic, they're non-GMO, but if you know anything about mushrooms, as more and more of us have been learning about the benefits of mushrooms, not just psychedelic mushrooms, but all types of mushrooms, then you understand that they are a great boon to your health. So Sean recently hooked me up and I've been trying the Brain Squared, which is for gut pea flower extract, ashwagandha. I also recently picked up the Radiant Energy, which is for pre and post workout. So I go to the gym 3 or 4 times a week and now starting to take these before and after. These feature cordyceps, reishi, and chaga. And finally, he's got Immune Renew, which is obviously for immunity. This one features chaga, turkey tail, reishi, maitake, shiitake, and extract of nattokinase. I encourage you to go visit the website. It is cultivated-mind.com. And of course, we have a special deal and a discount for those of you who want to purchase them through my link at cultivated-mind.com/cm/broze, BROZE. You can check out the link on the screen right now or wherever you're watching. Check out the link below the video. That is cultivated-mind.com. Yeah, so check it out, guys. That's another one of the companies I support, as you guys know. Somebody did mention Bohemian Grove. Thank you for the reminder. So we're going to do the Bohemian Grove story. Then we're going to do our What's Derrick Reading this week. And I'm going to talk to you guys about a book that you absolutely need to know. And then we're going to end with a conscious music video. And I see a couple of trolls here on there, people saying everything's so commercial. Would you rather me run an ad by Google or Amazon, or would you rather me let YouTube run ads so then you see stuff about shots and injections? No, instead I'm working with 2 companies that I'm friends with, small businesses. One offers you a privacy phone and the other offers you organic mushroom extracts. Oh my God, so commercial in here. Get over yourselves. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about Bohemian Grove. Now, for those of you who are not in the know about Bohemian Grove, let me see if I can find this real quick. Okay, here we go. So Bohemian Grove is it's a men's club out in California that was one of the first people exposed it was Alex Jones, but you can find reporting on it in the corporate media going back to I think the early 90s. But basically it's where a lot of these rich fucks gather in California, mainly Republicans, right wing, and they have all kinds of secret discussions. And as Alex Jones discovered years ago, they do these rituals. They do the cremation of care in front of a giant statue of an owl and sometimes a fake baby effigy that gets placed on this altar. Let me see. Oh, look, they took it down, huh? Oh, wait, I spelled Twitter wrong real quick. I'm trying to pull up this video. The reason I want to talk about Bohemian Grove first is because Alex Jones had these citizen journalists who apparently snuck into Bohemian Grove again. And so I was watching the footage and I was like, hey, you know what? These guys got some good footage, actually. I just want to show you a clip of that. But more importantly, I just wanted to mention Bohemian Grove because it's one of these things that, just like Bilderberg Group, less and less people are paying attention to what they do and what they're involved in. And I found some interesting details that I think have been kind of missed because, as part of the Great Inversion that I was discussing, so many independent alternative media make excuses for Trump so that a lot of people are really ill-informed on, and not just Trump, but the right wing in general. And so they're ill-informed on the things that the right wing has been up to. And so we're going to talk about that in just a second. Here's a little clip of them marching in red hoods. Let me make sure. Can you guys see that one? Yeah. This is them like marching through the forest and little red hoods, little Red Riding Hoods. All right, I was not playing. It's being whack. I'll link this below, but you can just, if you want, you can go to Alex Jones's page or his website and check that out. But these guys, why won't you play? They got some good footage of them marching and Red Hoods. It's weird as shit, guys. They didn't witness any baby sacrifices or anything like that, but they definitely witnessed some strange things going on. So, and I also, for those of you maybe who paid attention a couple of months ago, I saw this a little bit. There's a boxer named Ryan Garcia who started speaking out and saying that he was taken to Bohemian Grove and he was tied up in the woods and they forced him to watch little kids getting raped. He started tweeting about this. This is probably gonna get taken down on YouTube, my bad. He says, please pray and send prayers. I'm calling all prayer warriors. If they kill me, it wasn't me. Are the people going to get behind me and let them kill me? That's the real question. Are you, so he's having like what some people are, of course, like this guy's having breakdown, a mental breakdown. Others are like, hey, he was really trying to warn people. He's still alive, he hasn't died or anything, but that's maybe something to pay attention to. So he's saying they took him to Bohemian Grove. I don't know when that would have happened. But I also found this other interesting detail. This is from a couple of months ago. It was reported by Bitcoin Magazine. Jamie Dimon, who's of Chase Bank, of course, and Larry Fink, BlackRock, seen angrily arguing about Bitcoin outside of Bohemian Grove. And I just thought that was funny, just like imagining that scene of them arguing about Bitcoin. And it could be that they were talking about how to co-opt Bitcoin as they have been working on for the last year. But that's just a funny detail. That got reported that they're just outside in the woods. They were seen kind of off to the side, screaming at each other about Bitcoin. And imagine that scene. But here's one other thing that you might not have heard about. Clarence Thomas, you guys know Clarence Thomas, the Supreme Court Justice. Now, again, this is one of the areas where the right wing seems to just basically be silent. You might have heard the stories of the last couple months where they were saying, Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, he's taken money and bribes from different right-wing billionaires, and we need to be paying attention to that and figure out what actually, what that means. And most of the right wing, I've seen them just not even talk about it, just completely ignore it. Like, look, I don't really believe in the Supreme Court. I think it's an old, antiquated institution, but if you're going to have a Supreme Court, don't you think we should care if billionaires are getting influence with these people, whether they're left wing or right wing or whatever, right? I think that's an important point. But unfortunately, most people have kind of tuned out of this story. But the point here is that Clarence Thomas has been accused of taking money and trips from a number of different wealthy people. We're going to do a Control F, and look what happens when I hit search. Am I searching right? Bohemian Grove. Look at that. It says that. So this guy Crow is this billionaire that's been like taking Thomas out. He says, for more than 2 decades, Thomas has accepted luxury trips virtually every year from the Dallas businessman, Mr. Crow, without disclosing them. Documents and interviews now show. A public servant who has a salary of $285,000 a year. Isn't that great? He's got such a huge salary to go sit up on that court and just in his black robe. He has vacationed on Crow's super yacht around the globe. He flies on Crow's private jet. He has gone with Crow to the Bohemian Grove exclusive California all-male retreat and to his ranch in East Texas. It's like, what the heck? Right-wingers, like anybody, why is nobody asking that question? Like, I mean, I know it's hard to kind of find a Supreme Court justice just walking on the street, but I just showed you, we've got new videos from Alex Jones and some citizen journalists going there, showing some weird shit happening still. We know that that's where they gather and they organize. We got a guy claiming a professional boxer, claiming he was taken to there and watched kids being abused. We got Jamie Dimon and Larry Fink there arguing about Bitcoin. Don't you think it's important, if it was reported by ProPublica, that documents show that a Supreme Court justice went to Bohemian Grove? I don't know. Am I crazy? Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe that doesn't even matter. Maybe you guys don't care. To me, though, that sounds like probably something we should ask questions about. That seems like we might want to know if there's any relationship there. If the Supreme Court justice is going to the Redwoods in California and donning not his black Supreme Court justice little robe, but a red hood, as they were seen in that video, and doing some kind of ritual in front of a giant owl while they play creepy music. I guess that seems like it's newsworthy to me, but maybe it's not. Maybe I'm just crazy. Nevertheless, let's go on with our next segment, guys. This is called What's Derrick Reading? And this week, instead of highlighting one of my books from back here on my shelf that I'm currently reading, I'm actually going to show you a book that I plan to buy that I haven't bought yet. I've got so many books on my my wish list. I don't buy books from Amazon, but I do have a Barnes & Noble wish list. So if anybody ever wants to buy me some books and wants to check that out, let me know. But this book is about the Central Intelligence Agency, which I have reported on quite a bit over the years, especially in my documentary, The Pyramid of Power, on our episode relating to the intelligence networks. This one is called The Secret Team, the CIA and its allies in control of the United States and the world, by L. Fletcher Prouty. He was a colonel, I believe, and the forward is by Jesse Ventura. And let's take a look at open up that cover. So The Secret Team, the CIA and its allies in control of the United States and the world. This book was first published in 1970s. It says L. Fletcher Prouty's expose of the CIA's brutal methods of maintaining national security during the Cold War was first published in the 1970s. However, virtually all copies of the book disappeared upon distribution, having been purchased en masse by shady private buyers. I don't know if that's true, but that's interesting. The topics include President Kennedy tried to control the CIA, the nature of clandestine operations, the Dulles-Jackson Correa report in action, defense, containment, and anti-communism, Khrushchev's challenge, the U-2 dilemma, from the Bay of Pigs to Dallas and much more. Basically, it's just showing how much the intelligence agencies actually control. It goes a little deeper. It says his allegations cannot have pleased the CIA. The secret team appears once more with new introduction by former Governor Jesse Ventura. And it says, like it or not, we now live in the new age of one world. This is the age of global companies, of global communications, transport, and global food supply, finance, and just around the corner, global accommodation of political systems. In this sense, there are no home markets, no isolated markets, and no markets outside the global ones. It is time to face the fact that true national sovereignty no longer exists. We live in a world of big business, big lawyers, big bankers, and even bigger money men and big politicians. It is the world of the secret team. So I think books like this are helpful for people who maybe have a vague kind of feeling or understanding that the world is run by not presidents, and that's why presidents are puppets. When I say that, it's not just people freak out sometimes when I say that as if I'm being hyperbolic, but dude, read these books from ex-CIA agents. This is not the only one. I'm pulling up right now The Devil's Chessboard. Some of you guys may be familiar with it, David Talbot. And this also describes the workings of intelligence agencies and what we used to call back in my day the shadow government, which has now been termed the deep state, which is often misused because Trump got people to think the deep state just means the bureaucracy of people that are kind of in government. Sure, they play a minor role, but the shadow government literally is the people behind the government who run things. That's what the deep state really is. The Devil's Chessboard, Alan Dulles, the CIA, and the Rise of America's Secret Government by David Talbot. An explosive headline-making portrait of Alan Dulles, the man who transformed the CIA into the most powerful and secretive colossus in Washington. He was also the founder of Salon.com and author of New York Times bestsellers Brothers. America's Greatest Untold Story, the United States' rise to world dominance under the guile of Alan Welsh Dulles, the longest-serving director of the CIA, drawing on revelatory new materials, including U.S. government documents, intelligence sources, personal correspondence, and his journals, and exclusive interviews with the children of prominent CIA officials. This book reveals the underside of one of the world's most powerful and influential figures. Dulles' decade as the director of the CIA, which he used to further his public and private agendas, were a dark time in American politics. Calling himself the Secretary of State of unfriendly countries, he saw himself as above the elected law, manipulating and subverting American presidents in the pursuit of his personal interests and those of the wealthy elite that he counted as friends, including colluding with Nazi-controlled cartels, German war criminals, and the mafia. Targeting foreign leaders for assassination, overthrowing governments not in line with his political aims, and employing these tactics to further his goals at home. At home, the book also offers evidence that relating to the assassination of John F. Kennedy Jr. And do you think, my friends, that any of this shit has stopped since Alan Dulles left? Do you think that any of this has stopped since Prouty was writing about it in his book, The Secret Team? Of course not. It's only gotten worse. This is why my whole little rant a little while ago was all about it's a rigged system. I mean, when you have political parties that are that corrupted, and you've got these intelligence agencies behind the whole thing, this giant apparatus, how can you really legitimately and honestly argue that your vote does matter and that it's actually, you're doing anything. I mean, again, I think it's kind of naive and silly. I'll remind you guys one more thing. If you go to thepyramidofpower.net, this is where you can find my 17-part documentary series. We've released 14 episodes so far. The most recent one, 14, is the false flag deception. Chapter 15, the pedo class. I've already submitted that to my editor. He's working on it right now. It'll be out in August. Super excited for that. But if you go to season 3, because I try to release these episodes 4 at a time in quote unquote seasons, and you go to the last episode of season 3, episode 12, Crimes of the Intelligence Community. My friends, this is one of the best things I've ever put together. And it's a long one because, well, I talk about the US intelligence, Russian intelligence, Israeli and Chinese intelligence services. So I get deep, but particularly deep into the history of the US and Israeli intelligence. And if you can watch that, you can look at my sources, all my transcript, all my sources are right there, listen to it. And then tell me that your vote matters, right? Like, read the books, The Devil's Chessboard, The Secret Team, watch my documentary here. I'm not trying to be, I'm not black-pilled. I still think there are things we can do. I just don't think that they are ever going to let us, quote unquote, win through the political system. And that was kind of what I was saying earlier, that they know how to handle violence. They know how to handle voting. What they don't know how to handle is us exiting from their systems and saying, we're not going to play your games anymore. We're going to build alternatives. We're going to start focusing on taking care of ourselves. And now people can say, oh, sure, Derrick, you think they're going to let you grow food? They're going to come Waco you. Maybe they will, but I'd rather get Waco doing something that I love and die living free than playing stupid games for the rest of my life and pressing a button every 2 to 4 years and thinking that I'm doing something and just watching the world get more and more fucked up in the process. Like, I'd actually like to maybe fix the world, maybe improve the world. That's kind of where my mindset is. I don't know about you guys, but I got into this whole activist, conspiracy, truther, freedom movement, liberty movement game because I wanted to fix things, not just because I thought, you know what, this will make a nice hobby. I'll make YouTube videos and eventually I can get invited to speak places and I'll have friends on the internet and we'll just talk about the world as we witness it and watch it get progressively worse and worse. That's not enough for me. As I said earlier, it's not enough to be awake. You need to be activated. You need to get organized in your communities. Check out freedomcells.org. Check out thegreaterreset.org. Check out thepyramidofpower.net. Check out theconsciousresistance.com. And yeah, those are my websites and my projects. We're going to wrap up here, guys, in just a moment. I want to remind you guys to visit theconsciousresistance.com. This is where all of my content is at, including the article I went over about the Great Inversion. I really do hope you will share that. And my article about the Trump assassination is at thelastamericanvagabond.com. Go check out our interviews, check out our other content and our team members. Look up my presentations. I think I've got a lot of really solid ideas that are in my presentations. And of course, you can download our books. You can support us by buying shirts like this one. You Are a Creator shirt. Let me make sure you guys can see that because I love this one. I actually haven't put it on the website yet. I still need to. This is the You Are a Creator. So these are ways to support what I do. Share my work, invest in my work, buy an Above phone, get some organic mushroom extracts, support us at theconsciousresistance.com. Guys, I appreciate you so much, and I value you joining me tonight for the last hour and a half. We're going to wrap up, as we have been, with a conscious music video. I tried to get it loaded earlier. It wouldn't load, so I'm going to try to do something different because the video that I'm about to play is actually my new music video. It's the first music video I've released in like years. And as some of you know or are learning, I perform music under the name 33, not because I'm a Freemason or anything like that, but because, well, my father died when I was 33 of a drug overdose. Christ ascended at 33, allegedly. The Buddha became enlightened at 33, allegedly. You have 33 vertebrae. When I see the number 33, it helps me know that I'm in alignment. To me, it means healing, transmutation, transformation, going from depression, suicide, drug addiction, prison, to doing what I'm doing now. I mean, 19 years ago, guys, I was addicted to crystal meth. I was homeless this summer, 19 years ago. So I'm grateful for where I'm at. And music, particularly hip hop, when done right, not the trash you hear on the radio, it can be a great storytelling method. And so this song I'm about to share is called Guard Your Heart. And the video was filmed a couple of weeks ago in Houston, Texas. And it does feature my lovely partner, Miriam. This is a message like sharing some of the things I've been through and just offering to my friends, my family, to my niece and nephews, protect your mind, guard your heart, love yourself. Don't let this world get you down because it's fucked up out there and we need to take care of each other as much as we can. So I'm going to try to play this video. Hopefully it works well. Thank you guys so much for supporting me. Until next time, remember, you are powerful, you are beautiful, and you are free. Peace.
Check 1, 2.
33. Yo, I've just been reflecting again on everything I've been through, and I feel like I have a little bit of knowledge to impart. So this one goes out to anyone who's struggling. I know you've been struggling, I can see it in your eyes. You're tired of fate, cause he keeps telling you lies. The world seems so heavy and you can't see the light. You're so sick of the way that she always starts a fight. You know you're meant for better, you can feel it in your bones. The judgment's hateful words like sticks and stones. I know what it's like to carry all that weight, the emotional baggage that holds you back, self-hate. Guard your heart and protect your mind. Show yourself some love, girl, you're one of a kind. You deserve the best, don't keep playing these games. The journey begins once you're ready to change. Guard your heart and protect your mind. Show yourself some love, man, you're one of a kind. You deserve the best, don't keep playing these games. The journey begins once you're ready for change. Once you're ready for change. Once you're ready to change, the universe will conspire with you to bring you that which you deserve, what you need. Just be ready for it. There's so much to see and there's so much to learn. I'm blessed to be on this earth, just taking my turn. Being the best me I can be while you flourish equally. We're kings and queens claiming our crowns, only to see that everyone has a purpose and a place. It's up to us to discover what challenges we must face. Like children still learning, we're bound to make mistakes. We take the lessons and grow, our pain was not a waste. Guard your heart and protect your mind. Show yourself some love, girl, you're one of a kind. You deserve the best, don't keep playing these games. The journey begins once you're ready to change. Guard your heart and protect your mind. Show yourself some love, man, you're one of a kind. You deserve the best, don't keep playing these games. The journey begins once you're ready for change. I was ready for change. I needed change. Shit, it was either change or die. And these lessons that I learned, I'm offering them to you and hope that you can avoid some of the roads I went down. Yo. Lately I've been writing letters to my younger self. Don't depend on others for love, love yourself. Remember your mother, she brought you into this place. Forgive your father, he's still an emotional basket case. Love is more than sex, don't just jump in the sheets. Take time to look in the eyes of every stranger you meet. The sooner you stop caring what they think, you will rise. Be honest, trust yourself and don't fall for their lies. Guard your heart and protect your mind. Show yourself some love, girl, you're one of a kind. You deserve the best, don't keep playing these games. The journey begins once you're ready to change. Guard your heart and protect your mind. Show yourself some love, man, you're one of a kind. You deserve the best, don't keep playing these games. The journey begins once you're ready for change. You are powerful. You are beautiful. And you are free. Step into your divinity. Guard your heart and protect your mind. Show yourself some love, girl, you're one of a kind. You deserve the best, don't keep playing these games. The journey begins once you're ready to change. Guard your heart and protect your mind. Show yourself some love, man, you're one of a kind. You deserve the best, don't keep playing these games. The journey begins once you're ready for change. Guard your heart, protect your mind.
Since 2012, the Conscious Resistance Network has been an independent media organization focused on empowering individuals through education, philosophy, health, and community organizing. We work to create a world where corporate and state power do not rule over the lives of free human beings. Our motto is leading by example and helping others in their pursuit of freedom. Visit theconsciousresistance.com to find our articles, documentaries, interviews, podcasts, books, and more. Remember, you are powerful, you are beautiful, and you are free.